In simple terms, cash runway is an estimate of how long a business can operate before exhausting its cash reserves and requiring an external infusion of cash. The metric is calculated by dividing a company's cash reserves by its net cash outflow or burn every month, thus arriving at a number of months of cash runway a company has. Running out of cash is the second most common cause of failure among startups, first one being product market fit. This is why understanding cash runway is key for any startup. For early stage startups that have a dependency on external funding, lack of runway can hamper or halt business operations. Setting milestones, tracking growth spends while analyzing cash runway will help companies unlock desired valuations. A quick look at this metric can help flag the adverse impact of business decisions. The rule of thumb on what's a good runway is to have approximately 18 to 24 months before funding rounds. If you are leading a business and you are watching this, a further breakdown and categorizing the runway period in buckets will help establish where you are at in your business. From our experience, we have bucketed it under three zones. The red zone, a situation in your business where the runway is less than 12 months. The efforts should be focused on implementing checks to manage the cash and survive. The time for decisions and actions on how you manage the runway was yesterday. The next zone, the amber zone, very much like the traffic lights, a rather confusing scenario. This is when you have a runway of more than 12 months. This is a tricky place to find yourself in. The situation calls for diligent monitoring of the runway status here. The final one being the green zone. This is where your runway is sufficient to get you to the next planned round of capital raise, suggesting an ideal scenario. However, refinement of existing processes and checks should continue to preserve this. In the current scenario, this becomes even more important considering how the time period between rounds have increased due to the market sentiments. A very recent example of how important runway is what's currently going on with Dunzo and what transpires when you actually lose sight of this metric. While funding winter could be a reason, the company is set to resort to its third round of layoffs. The third round comes in less than 7 months and on the heels of deferred salary payments announcement. While the company has reported a runway of about 18 months, its high burn rate and debt obligations are catching up. Even though they raised capital in April 2023 through convertible notes from Google and Reliance to help their current situation, the step that had to be taken was too drastic, including shutting some of the dark stores overnight. The short answer is to always look at extending the runway even if you fall in the green zone. However, several factors must be considered before implementing a process to actually extend the runway. One way is to identify high burn areas and evaluate the gestation period of a project. An example of this is that a project that has a significant long-term potential but is also drastically impacting the cash runway. Here, the management must take a stance on moving ahead or not. Another route is to work on balancing credit terms with customers to manage the cash inflow. Finally, fundraising at less than ideal valuations is an approach that some startups have started taking. A recent example is PharmEasy, an Indian online health tech startup that raised funds at a 90% lower valuation to meet its debt obligations. A better approach would be to put checks in place to never lose sight of the cash runway. This can be done by firstly completing a deep dive of the P&L, taking stock of expense items and their possible impact on the cash runway. Then set quantifiable targets post the analysis. The outcome of this will have to be a list of actionable items that translates the top level ideas into execution level items. With that said, external impact from macroeconomic conditions, geopolitical situations, evolving industry trends, investor sentiments must also be considered. Here are some of the takeaways while analyzing cash runway as a metric. It shouldn't be treated as a one-time exercise as it constantly changes with an evolving and growing business. An overemphasis on the metric could lead to a very conservative stance. Imagine fighting a battle always watching your back. When you are evaluating runway and possible ways to extend it, split your initiatives into nice to have and must haves. This simple demarcation can bring sanity into the overall decision making process as well. A common mistake most businesses make are to make blanket cost cuts across the board to extend runway. Investments into L&D, R&D and marketing are some of the areas that have to be looked at very differently as they have long-term impact on your company. These investments have a longer turnaround time to showcase their returns but are highly impactful in creating a brand itself.